Maseches Shabbos, Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis. However, we are still in Nun Beis Amud Aleph at the very bottom of the page. Today, we're going to see fascinating, interesting things about Tumah v'Tahara. Okay, let's go. Umazin alen v'tovlin b'mkoimon. We said in the Mishnah, if a person has a horse, let's say, or other animals like dogs, and they wear a collar on their neck. And by the way, sometimes this collar also has a ring holding the collar in order to maybe attach a leash or something like that. Yeah, you have a collar on the neck plus a ring on the collar. So he said that if this becomes tame, you can actually sprinkle the Maypo Aduma on that collar and the ring of the animal, and also Toivlan Bimkoimon, which means you can still leave it on the animal while you take it to the mikveh. How do you do that? You take your horse or you take the dog into the river, you let the animal's neck go into the water, and then the water basically now the water is all over it, and the item is now submerged in the water. The animal didn't die. Don't worry, it goes up to here, and all is good. Of course, there are questions here, chatzitza stories, but first of all, the obvious question is we're basically saying that something that's there to serve an animal is considered as a kli. It's considered as something that's meant to receive tumah, that's susceptible to tumah, and that brings about the following question: Lemema de bnei kibula tuma ninu. Are you coming to tell me that an animal's item, an animal's tachshit, is something that is susceptible to receive tuma? Vatnan, look what it says in Mishnah and Kelim: Tabas odom tmeya. A tabas odom, a regular ring of a person meant to be here on the finger of man or woman. Ve'taba tmea. So that's tuma. It receives. It can get tuma. It's susceptible to tuma. If something like a dead sheretz or a dead person touched the tabas, so the tabas becomes tome. However, the tabas behema, a tabas that's there for the animal, that's our guy. Yeah, the shir. It's called a shir or a share. That is, let's say, the collar of the animal. If it's even if it's made out of metal, let's say, the kalim. Tabas kalim, basically, let's say sometimes you have a frying pan or you have a pot and you have like a tabas, you have like a ring to hang it on. So when it comes to tabas of a person, there's a special pasuk that told us that the tabas, that jewelry of people, of human beings, are mekabel tuma. Because the psukim that deal with kabbalas tuma of kelim are the psukim that deal with bnois Midian, the girls of Midian that the Jewish people they took them captives, and they took they brought from the war, they brought a lot of tachshitim, they brought with them jewelry, and the Torah says that those jewelry become tome. Mashenk and the jewelry of an animal, we didn't find that to be mekabel tuma or kalim. Kalim, if the tabas is there to beautify or to serve the kli, that's too far apart. The only tabas which I know is important enough, as we saw in the Torah from Parshas Midian, there in Parshas Pinchas, it's only the one that serves the person. But tabas behema v'kelim v'shal kol tabois, all other rings, for example, rings for the doors, yeah, the ring like a knocker on the door. All these, what about them? The hoiros. They, as I explained, they're not makabel tuma because the horos, these items which are not the jewelry for the person, it's a kli of a kli, a tachshit for a kli, something to beautify my frying pan, or to beautify my Roxy the dog, whatever. Those things, that's not important enough. We didn't find that these makabel tuma. Rashi points out, I'm not sure why, but Rashi says, Stam, we should know la halacha, that if, as long as the ring is there with the, let's say, frying pan, then it's makabel tuma together with the frying pan, because frying pan is makabel tuma, and the ring together with it. So if the rodent, if the sheretz touch the ring, the whole thing becomes tuma. It's like tofel. It's together with it. But if you separated it, then it's not makabel tuma. In any event, the question is as follows. Yeah, you came just in time to hear the question. The question is, why are you telling me that the collar, the shir of the animal has to go to mikveh with all this acrobatics of putting the animals in the river. At the end of the day, if this is animals' ring, animals' jewelry, they're not mikabel tuma. So if it's not mikabel tuma, it doesn't have to go to mikveh or it doesn't need paraduma. So what's the story? Amar v'Yitzchak, we're going to see two very different answers. Remember, one is Rav Yitzchak, one's Rav Yosef. Amar v'Yitzchak, the boin minoi odom lenoi behema, which means that collar originally was noi odom. It was a jewelry for a person. It was a person's choker, yeah. And then he decided to convert it and make it noi behema. So originally it was noi odom, right? Let's assume now he didn't make any physical changes. He has a collar. Now he says it's not so much in fashion anymore. Now decided to put that same ring on the neck of, Black Star, his horsey. So now the tumah doesn't just go away, because when he was mekabel tumah, where by the person, right, was a noi odom, right? Now you converted it to what? To the animals thing. Does make a difference. It became tumah, who was human use. Yeah. The sheretz, Rashi says, the sheretz fell on it when it was human beings tachshitim, mekabel tumah. Just because now your animal uses it, but there's no physical change made, it remains the same. The tumah doesn't just go away. Yeah, it's like a debt to the iriyah. It just doesn't go away. Yeah, like if you don't deal with it. Just because you made it in the animal's ring, then what happens? Animal's ring. So what? It was originally tumah from the human. Now what do? Take it to the mikveh, dunk your animal in the river. Rav Yosef Omar, that's Rav Yitzchak, which means Rav Yitzchak believed, you have to understand, that if it was enochinami made for animals, he bought it in the animal accessory shop, enochinami, it's not in the Kabul Tumah. That's Rav Yitzchak. Now, Rav Yosef Omar, Rav Yosef has all different outlook over here. Rav Yosef says, which means, what do you mean it's the animal's ring? It's not stam a nice tachshit for the behema. The person actually pulls the animal with that ring, right? So Lemaisa, since this is used by a person in order to facilitate his use of the behema, it's not purely a behema thing. It's really also for an Odom. Odom or behema Toshia Hashem together. And because he holds it over here, Mimela, that's called human use. And we're going to prove it. Miloi Tanya, didn't we learn in the Braisa? Makel shel behema shel mateches mekabel tuma. What about if you have a makel? You have a stick. You have a rod made out of metal, and it's meant for a behema. What do you mean for the behema? As you ride on the behema, you hit the behema. With horses, it's sometimes impossible. You have to kick them or you have to hit them a little bit, otherwise they don't move. Yeah. So therefore, you have a rod, a metal rod. You give it a little bit on the stomach to make it move, and it's mekabel tuma. Why? Why is mekabel tuma? It's an animal thing. Well, no. Matam. You telling me it's an animal thing? No. Because at the end of the day, the human being is using them for the behema, but it's his use. He's the one who's using it. Because with this shir, we said, yeah, call about a shir nimshochin b'shir, and you sometimes connect the collar, sometimes you take it like that, physically right here, you put in your hand, and therefore, since you use it as human being, therefore, it is considered as human kli. That's what's makabel tuma. Okay, so even though it is for animals, but it's for animals for people's use of the animal. It's for the owner of the dog or the horse, and therefore it's makabel tuma. Rashi points out, why do we say that this rod is made out of metal? Why so cruel? Because if it's made out of wood, then what would be the halacha? Anybody? If you have a metal rod, is mekabel tuma? Wooden rod, mekabel tuma? Why not? Shutei kleetz. Shutei kleetz. Kleetz are not mekabel tuma unless they are receptacles, as we're going to see later on again, as we saw in Daf Tesvav and millions of other places. Yeah, a kleetz, wooden kli is only mekabel tuma if there is room as a receptacle. Okay, weiter. Yes. Absolutely, yes. The toivlon bim koimon. Oh, what did we say? That you do hazor, right? If it's tome for either Rav Yitzchak's reasons or Rav Yosef's reason, if it's tome mekabel tuma, a wooden plank over a metzeva. Maybe we'll do that later. I'm not sure what you're asking, Jason. A plank of wood over a metzeva. A plank of woods are not mekabel tuma. I don't know, over a metzeva, not over a metzeva. Planks of wood are not mekabel tuma. No, the answer is it's not mekabel tuma. Sometimes clay eitz are mikabel Tumah midrabanon, but usually not all of it. In some cases, weiter. V'toivlon bimkoiman. Fragt the Gemara, vayika chatzitza. Yeah. According to Rashi, the question is, how do you put the collar with the animal? The animal's wearing the collar. The collar has, at some point, it's at some place over here, it has a ring. And that ring is very tight on the collar. And the problem is the water doesn't go through between the collar and the ring of the collar. In other words, between the neck of the animal, according to Rashi, there's no problem. Yeah, Tosfos says otherwise, but Rashi says it's not so stuck to the animal's neck. The problem is it's a ring that is holding, that is tight on the collar, right? So Tosfos points out that we can see Tosfos inside just for a little bit. The top Tosfos. Yeah, Rashi says that the water doesn't go through because the tabas, yeah, is very tight on the collar. You have to say that those rings are sometimes removable. You remove them and you do other stuff with them. If they are together, in other words, they're forever and ever, you never remove the ring from the collar, then they're considered as what? They're considered as one kli. There's no chatzitza within the same kli. Lo havi chatzitza, we must say you sometimes remove it. Rav Porat says the issue is not because of the ring and the collar, it's between the neck and the collar. It's so tight on the neck that it doesn't go through. Beseder. In any event, we have an issue with chatzitza, right? Omar Vami, the solution is besharitchan. You soldered it, you remolded it, and you made it wider. Either wider against the neck, or wider, meaning that the ring, you changed it, you knocked it, on all sides, until the ring is wider, and is not so tight on the collar. They're both loose. It's all loosened up, and the water can come through. Very nice. Ooh, that brings about a whole load of questions. Wait a second. Lema, if you're saying this Rav Ami Rav Yosef back to Rav Yosef and Rav Yitzchak. Now we must say that Rabbi Ami holds like Rav Yosef that even this item which belongs to an animal, because it's also used by people, it's Mekabel Tumah. Rav Ami, however, cannot hold like Rav Yitzchak. If Rav Ami Rav Yitzchak, the Omar beboin minoi odem lenoi behema. Oh, what did Rav Yitzchak say? Rav Yitzchak said that really, originally, the kli was not for behema. The kli was for an odom. It was a collar, a necklace of an odom, and he turned it into noi behema, right? Now, but noi behema, according to Rav Yitzchak, is never mekabel tuma, even if it's coexisting with a person, even if it's also used for a person. According to Rav Yitzchak, no. If it's noi behema, it's not mekabel tuma. Now, let's put two and two together. When you have something for human use, it's mekabel tuma, jewelry. Behema jewelry is not mekabel tuma. Listen to this. What did Rabbi Ami say? Even the Ritchan, he said, when you originally had them for human use, what was it then? Mekabel tuma. Now you changed it physically. You went bang, 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 bang on all sides. You made it wider, thinner. Ovad b'umaisa. If you did a physical act for the kli, you made something physical, you changed the kli physically, then the tumah goes away. As we're going to prove now, and this is a big, big yesod in Tumah V'Tara, when you take a kli that's mekabel tumah and you destroy it, or you change it, and you didn't stop change it different color. What do you mean you changed it? You changed it, making it into a behemoth's kli. And behemoth's kli is not mekabel tumah. So I physically changed it from a mekabel tumah to a non-mekabel tumah. That's why I kept stressing before that there was no physical change in Rav Yitzchak. But if you put Rav Yitzchak together with Rav Ami, that's a very dangerous shidduch. Because Rav Ami says what? There's a physical change. And Rav Yitzchak says that animal jewelry are not mekabel. Only the one of the people. If you took a people's jewelry and you banged it physically, boom, 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 you made it somehow, you're a good blacksmith, you change it into an animal's kli, which is not mekabel tuma, there's no Tumah anymore. So then our Mishnah is not going to work because the Mishnah is telling me that there is Tumah still going on. So must be that really Rav Yitzchak and Echanami must be Rav Ami, held like Rav Yosef and not like Rav Yitzchak. Ditnan. Now we're going to see a Mishnah which is a huge yesod in all of Tumah V'Tara. Gentlemen, you should all be excited to be seeing this Mishnah and Kalim. It also appears in Kiddushin, Daf Nuntes Modal. If you think I'm a big boki, I happen to see it today in the afternoon, so that's what I'm remembering. Yeah, Ditnan. Kol Kalim Yodin L'Detu Mosan B'Machshava. All Kalim become Tomeh, they go down. In other words, they start receiving Tumah conceptually, b'machshava, only by thought. Let me explain. The classical example, which Rashi says a few times in Shas, the classical example is as follows. What happens if you have a piece of leather? It's always the example Rashi uses because it's really a very easy example, classical example. Let's say you have a piece of leather and you basically designed it. You cut it over here, cut over there. Now you have a nice, straight, minimalistic looking piece of leather. Well, I'm not sure what to do. I can either leave it like that, and it's going to be a nice rug, right? Like a leather rug or leather to put on the wall. I don't know, right? Or I can keep cutting it to what? Straps. I can keep cutting and making all kinds of straps and shoes maybe and other items. I can do all kinds of things. So let's say I took that piece of leather and I decided b'machshava, that's it. I don't need shoes. I love it the simplistic way it is. Just, I don't like all the schmaltzy kind of stuff. I just like to keep it as it is, right? Like, just like this. Ooh, amazing. B'machshava, and then a dead sheretz came, it's tomeh. Because if I decided that it's a kli, it's considered as a kli. That's the rule. However, the ein oilin mitumason el b'shinui ma'aseh. What happens in the morning after? His wife tells him, "Are you crazy? Our children need shoes. Very nice. You have your artistic ideas. You're going to take that piece of leather, make shoes for children right now." So now he decided what? He decided, no. This is not kli. I'm now viewing it as raw material because soon, in 5 minutes, I'm going to start cutting it into shoes. No. Then it's still mekabel tuma, right? In other words, to get out of tuma, you have to do a ma'isa. Says Rashi, only when you start with the ismel, when you start cutting it, then we'll say that the tumah goes away, or at least the new tumah will not come in. That's another shaila. In other words, basically, the idea is as follows. To become Tomah is easy. To become Torah is harder. But the concept is, as we're seeing over here, if you did a shinui ma'aseh, and you did, in this case, there was something that's mekabel tumah because it's human jewelry, right? And you did a ma'aseh, you bang, bang, bang on all sides, and I physically changed it. Took me a lot of time to make it into an animal's jewelry. So now it should not be mekabel tuma anymore, right? Because it changed the ma'aseh. No, so must be Rav Ami is not holding like Rav Yosef, because otherwise it's not going to work, right? It's not holding like Rav Yitzchak. And says the Gemara, surprise, Sava lo Rav Yehuda. We could be meshadich them, and still we can say Rav Ami holds like Rav Yehuda. What did Rav Yehuda say? Rav Yehuda is not part of our discussion. Don't get confused. Rav Yehuda just said a detail regarding how to change things from becoming tomeh. The Omar ma'aseh letaken lav ma'asehu. I told you before, and I was careful with my words. I said there are two ways how to change a kli, making it into non-susceptible for tumah. Either that the kli you destroyed it, bang bang, you made a hole, or you changed it. Says Rav Yehuda, you know how a kli becomes non-tomeh and not susceptible for tumah? Only if you destroy the kli. But if you're metaken, if you change it and you make it better, let's say, even if it's for behema, which doesn't get tumah, you didn't destroy it, you change its character, then it's not oily midei tumah and the tumah remains. Right? The Tanya, Omer, lo amru shinu ma'aseh letaken ela lekalkel, which means, let me explain now. Let's look at the whole picture together. Rav Ami says, you know why the water can go through between the neck and the collar, or between the collar and the ring? No problem. He actually took the ring and now making all shidduch together. Originally, it was like Rav Yitzchak, it was human tachshit. And I decided it's going to go now from an animal. My animal has a thicker neck than me, I'd like to think, right? And now I'm making it wider. and a banging making it wider. Hey, why doesn't stop? Why is it still Mekabel Tumah? I changed it from Mekabel Tumah to non-Mekabel Tumah. Said the Gemara, boom, here comes Rabbi Yehuda to help us. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, only, when something stops Mekabel Tumah? When you destroy it. Like the Kli Cheres. How does Kli Cheres become non-Tomeh? You break. Kli Cheres yotze midei how? By shvira, by breaking. Here, when you changed it into something else, although that something else conceptually would not be Mekabel Tumah, but since originally there was Kabbalah Tumah, and now you're just changing its matter, its character, it's not enough of a change, and the Tumah remains. And therefore we can say you made it wider, like Avami, and you can say so like Rav Yitzchak, it was human being and then an animal, but it's still the Tumah remains because you didn't destroy it, you changed it. And that's not enough to make it actually non-Tumah. However, b'masnisa tani, the Brisa does not hold of all that we said. The Brisa says b'mechulolin. What's b'mechulolin? Originally, they were just wide, simple. We don't buy into this entire pshat that we said. The Brisa says, you know why this animal can go into the river with a collar and go to the mikveh? Pashut, I'll tell you why. Simply because lechatchila, you went to the shop where they sell you the horse's accessories, and it was wide. It was just wider than the horse's neck, or the ring was wider than the collar. Simple. Mimele, the water can go through. But then chinami, if it was really tight and you made it wider, according to the Brisa, not like Rabbi Yehuda, it will be considered as you changing it, and changing by yadayim takes away the Tumah. And here we're talking when it's still Tumah. Very good. Now we're going to see general concepts of Tumah V'Tara, even more. Beautiful stuff, very, very basic and important fundamental ideas. Shal Talmid Echad Megalil Elyon. Megalil Elyon, Upper Galilee, I think it's called. Yeah, there was one of the Talmidim, one of the disciples from Upper Galilee. He asked this Rabbi Eliezer, Shamati Shecholkin ben Tabas leTabas. I heard some very general idea, concept in Judaism. I heard something general in Yiddishkeit, in Halacha. I heard, he doesn't know which area of Halacha. I heard the Zazach in Yeshiva, in the Koil, in the Yeshiva, they were saying what? The Rabbanim were saying that there's a difference between one kind of ring to another kind of ring. What does it mean? Amaloi. So he's giving him a dracha. Now Reb Lezer is telling him what? He's telling him the following. Says, yeah, very good. He says, Shema lo shamata el alinyan Shabbos. I assume, my Talmid, you only heard that there's a difference between two types of rings regarding Shabbos. Ilinyan Tumah dovedo chadahi. Because regarding Tumah, all rings are the same. This one and that one are the same. What does it mean? Regarding Shabbos, we're going to see in Daf Samech Daled, Samech something, Samech Beis, Samech Daled, Samech Beis, I think. Samech Beis, Samech Beis, Samech Beis. Samech Beis, the Mishnah says that if a woman wears a men's ring, a ring with a signet, with the tabat chotam, with a choisam, the signet, then the woman is chayv chatas. Wow, because she's wearing a masculine ring, so first it's like carrying on Shabbos. And if the man wears a woman's ring, even if he just wants to pass it to his wife or something, but he wears it, possibly also chayv chatas. Maybe different opinions. Definitely, there's such a talk over there. So we see regarding Shabbos, the very crucial thing, we clearly differentiate between the genders. A woman wears a woman, and a man should wear the man's ring. And otherwise, they are basically mechalel Shabbos because you are carrying something that's not a levush for you. What did it tell you so many times? If I wear something that's not matim, not helping, not beautifying, it's like I'm carrying it. It's also, however, linyan Tumah regarding Tumah, both rings are the same. There's no difference regarding Tumah regarding different types of rings. Correct the Gemara. Are you sure? Are you telling me that all rings are the same? All rings were born equal in this American Constitution? You think that all rings are really the same regarding Tumah? That none. It says in the Mishnah that we just saw now. Tabas Odom Tmeya, a human ring, regular ring for man, for woman, human ring Tachshit is Tomen. The Tabas Behema Bekelim Vishal Kol Tabas Ta'oros. Tabas used for an animal, or a tabas that is beautifying or serving my frying pan, or any tabas that I stick on the door, or I don't know, it's going to kishutim for the sukkah, they are tahor. No. So you see that there is a difference between different types of ring. Why is the human being one tameh? Because it's like clay Midian. Because in Midian they actually took, they brought with them tachshitim of women. Yeah, tabas, kumas, it's mentioned. It's odo, tamid. All these tachshitim are mentioned. The mekabel tuma. That's the parsha that talks about tumas kelim. V'shekin, all the other tachshitim loy matzinu that they call the kli. It's not important enough. It's serving the animal, serving the kli. It's too indirect. So why you tell me all rings are mekabel tuma? And says the Gemara, ki kamer le'iyunami, the adam kamer le'enachanami. What Oblazer meant? What Oblazer meant? No, all human rings are the same. Yeah, all rings used by humans are all the same. That's what he meant. Frag the Gemara, still insisting. The adam, achasi, the one of the human being. Are you telling me all rings of human beings are the same? They're not the same. Vatanya, I'll show you. Brisa. It's going to be very hard for you to relate to that. You know, it's called a buckle, a ruchsan of zam. Yeah, you have a belt. Last time I checked, looked over here. Yeah, I have a belt, I have a buckle. But when you think of it, the buckle is there to keep the belt in its place. I really want the belt to hold me, to hold my pants, my trousers. And the buckle is mishamish. I mean, if it's like a tabas, made like a ring, like a ring, and then you stick the thing. Like women have it sometimes, like a ring, and so then that's already kli over kli. We don't view it that way, but it is. Yeah, I could even tie it. Don't think of your rings. Think of like the women, right? They have like a one from fabric. Sometimes like a ring you can stick it in, or in coats. You have it in long coats also of men. Yeah. So then I could do without it. I could tie it. It's more convenient for the belt to have that ring at the end of it. So if I have a tabas of a kli, it's not tame. If this once this separates from the belt, it's not mekabel tuma. In other words, you have some kind of apron over here. You have an apron, and in the bank you connect the two ends of the apron. You put them together in a ring. It's a ring also to help you tie your apron. Tehoiro. So those rings which are for human use, but they're not directly on you, they are serving the garment, they're tahor. Just to make it clear, the only tabas that's tameh is the one on your finger. No. So how can you tell me that all human being rings are the same? It's not true. Only the one on the finger is tameh, but the ones on your levush are not tameh. No. We minimize and minimize and minimize again and again. Even that Oblezel said to him, all rings are the same. The etzba kamarle, he told him all rings of the fingers are the same. If you begin to wonder what's going on here, what the Gemara says is still true, and Rashi reminds us of that. Because regarding Shabbos, it's true that men ring and a woman's ring, a masculine ring and a feminine ring, are so halachically different. A person can go to Beis Haskila. You can kill someone for carrying the one of the wrong gender on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, there is a difference between male and female ring. The shaken regarding Tumah, there's no difference. As long as you wear it on your ring, it's still makabel Tumah. Frek the Gemara, another question. But the etzba, dovedo achasi, are you sure that all tabas that you wear on the finger, all the finger rings are the same? Batanan. It says in the Mishnah, this is a very cool case. Tabas shel mateches. Let's say I have a tabas. The actual ring is made out of mateches. What's mateches? Metal. Made out of metal. The choisma shel almoig. Basically, the top piece, instead of a jewelry, instead of a diamond or a ruby or a zirconium, you know what you have there? You have a piece of coral from the sea. Now, corals halachically are considered as eights. They're considered as like a tree. I know scientifically they're half an animal. I once read about it, but halachically we view the almog as a tree. Now, we know that what? Eights is not mekabel tuma unless what? Unless it's mekabel tuma, right? It's a receptacle, kli kibul. Now, if you have a ring made out of metal, it's mekabel tuma, because metals don't have to be dafka kli kibul, right? Therefore, tmeah. If I have a ring that has the ring is made out of metal, okay, I don't care that on top of it I have wood. As long as the actual ring is from metal, and that's what's on my finger, it's tmeah. That's not even chiddush. The main chiddush is coming now. Here comes big news. He shall almoig Ooh, ay, 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 ay. Let's say you have a wooden ring. For example, almog, because almog is beautiful, says Rashi. Let's say you have a wooden ring, and the choisam, the top piece, is mateches. It's tahor. Why is it tahor? Because the main body of the ring is not a kli kibul. It's just round and hollow. It's not mekabel anything. It's mekabel my finger, but it cannot contain anything. The ring is round. You can't put anything inside. And because it's made out of what? Wood. Mimela, what do we say? It's not mekabel tum, it's the hoiro. Right? No, no, no. Just because this itself, no. The main part is not the mishamesh. The main part is the ring. The other part is just is beautifying it, right? But lamaisa, if the almoig, the wood, the wooden piece is round and is not receiving anything, it's not a receptacle, it's not klikibul, right? You go through a finger in and out when you wash your hands. So now the fact that on top you have a piece of metal, machpat, it's still tohar. The main part is the one that's on the finger, and it's kli eitz, which is not kli kibul. If we have time, look at Tosfos. We don't have time. This Tosfos is too delicious to miss. Look at Tosfos. He shall al v'chotzim shel matechas. V'im toimar v'yesh ba beis kibul mokem moshe v'choisom. Why are you telling me that that wooden ring is so hollow and is not considered? It's not mekabel anything. Not true, because there is a hole in the wood in order to set inside, called setting. You set inside the metal piece. So maybe that's called kli kibul. It's kli eitz that has a small kli kibul that is stuffed and filled with a diamond or with a mateches. And so Tosfos a big yesod which appears a few places in Masechta Shabbos is shloimar. The ain't a beis kibul. Why? The amrina beis kibul osele malo isloshme beis kibul. A beis kibul that is constantly always filled with something else. Not going in and out, hopefully. Otherwise, I'd like to talk to your jeweler. You have a piece of jewelry from wood. There is like some kind of, klikibul there, but it's meant to be filled up and stuffed 24/7 with your metal piece. That's not called beis kibul. Beis kibul is one that's sometimes empty, sometimes full. But if you 24/7, your whole life it's full, it's not called klikibul. It's a big yesod in a few places, and we'll see it later also. So Bekitza, we are in trouble. Because why are you telling me that all rings of human beings are the same? They're not the same. If they're made out of wood, then I'm a kabel tumah. And says the Gemara, and that's it. When you have two rings made out of metal, they're both mekabel tumah, whether it's female, male, whatever, loch patli, even with a piece of wood on top, as long as the tabas, the ring, is made out of metal and is worn on a human being's finger, a lot of conditions, then it's mekabel tumah, no difference. The shenken regarding Shabbos, there's a difference between the men's ring and the woman's ring. Very nice. The oid, a similar, although not identical, a similar discussion is now regarding needles, pins and needles. The oid shoal, the same Talmud asked, further on. He went on asking another question. Shamati shecholkin b'machat lemachat. I heard in yeshiva the rabbonim were saying, I don't know what they meant. I heard that there is a halachic difference between one kind of needle to another type of needle. Omaloi, again the response is the same. Shemalo shamata elolinian Shabbos. Regarding Shabbos, there's a big difference between types of needles, as we'll explain soon. Hashem. Regarding Tumah, all needles are the same. What's the big difference in Shabbos between the two types of needles? And when we say needle, what do we have in mind? Something with the eye of the needle, right? The hole, the eye of the needle. And you have a sharp part. And in my days, in the 70s, my mother would still sew me, stitch the holes in my pants. Okay? Okay, very nice. What about now on Shabbos? Coming Shabbos, not all needles are needles, which means if a woman goes out to the street with a needle stuck to her blouse, to her shirt, that's chayiv chatas. Because that's the normal way to carry needles by some people. We'll discuss that. It's not serving you. It's not making you more beautiful or more normal or more tzanuam or anything. No. You're carrying the machat in a very convenient way. Sorry, that's chiv chatas. Take that off quickly, right? That's chiv chatas. The shankin, if the woman wears a piece of what we call a brooch, sikat, a pin. In other words, it doesn't have the eye, yeah, it's just the pin. Usually, it's worn for reasons of beauty, like a tachshit, and that's allowed, even though there are reservations about tachshitim, it's definitely not chiv chatas. She's wearing it. She's wearing like a pin, a brooch to look nice, mechubet kovet Shabbos, and that's why that is not a problem. Okay, so that's a big difference. Now, ulinian tuma dovedo achasi. You're telling me regarding tuma, all needles are the same. Again, we're going to go through a journey. Look at that. Vatanan. It says in the Mishnah, machat shenitol choiro oy okto teoiro. You have a machat, which was a nice, good machat, but that needle, either the hole, the eye of the needle fell off, yeah, it was whatever broke off, or oikta, the sharp part, the sharp point is now broken off. It's tahira. There's nothing you can do with it. You could find something creative, but it's not the original use. It's called destroying it. It's destroyed. Therefore, it's tar. Yeah, it's like a klicher. You can always find things to do, but it's not the normal way anymore to use it. Yeah, and therefore it's an ois X needle. It's not a needle anymore. It's tahira. So why you tell me all needles are the same? Same answer, of course. He spoke about needles that are shalim, that are complete, whole, normal, nice. And there, all needles are the same regarding Tumah V'Tara, yeah, either with a needle or one, either with a hole or without a hole that's not meant to be with a hole. It was produced like a tachshit for Tumah, they're the same. Tachshit is Mekabel Tumah, and a needle for sewing is Mekabel Tumah, they're all the same. Yeah, as long as they're normal. Are you sure that B'Shlema, if you have two needles that are normal and nice, and let's assume now again we're talking about needles for sewing. Are they all the same for Tumah? They're not the same. Vatnan, look, Machat she'elta chaluda. What's chaluda? Rust. The Machat became rusty. Yeah, all of a sudden there's rust all over. If there's so much rust on it that when you try to sew and try to prick the fabric with it, yeah, it's me'akev. You can't sew with it properly. Tohira. Sorry, you have to throw it in the garbage or clean it very well, very, very well. But it's not usable the way it is. Something not usable is garbage. It's tar because it's not a kli anymore. The imlav tmeya. If there's a little bit of rust that a little bit of rust that you can still use it, then it's still usable. It's a kli and it's tomim. How do you define usable or not? Which means there are two pshatim in Rashi. I'll go for the second one. We're running out of time. Basically, what's rishuma nikal? Let's say the rust is so much that as you sew, you stitch and sew your nice white shirt, you have remnants. Yeah, it's leaving its mark on it. You see stains of chaluda. You're not going to use it machat anymore, right? Nobody wants his white shirt or his blue shirt with stains of chaluda. If the chaluda, the rust, is left there, at that happy note, we're not using it anymore. The kitzur, excuse me, you tell me all machat is this, all mechotim are the same? No, depends if there's chaluda or not. Shifa means what? It's meshuyaf. We're talking about nice needles that were smoothened and cleaned. There's no chaluda. Again, it's a needle for sewing. The needle has no rust on it, no significant rust, and all needles are the same. While in Shabbos, they're not all the same, right? In Shabbos, if the one doesn't have a hole in it, then you can wear it, and otherwise you can't. Here comes the last question. Are you telling me that all machats, all needles that are nice and clean are all the same for Tumah? The Atanya, here's going to come double question. Now, up until now, when we spoke about Shabbos, my good friends, what did I tell you? What's the issue of Shabbos to wear the needle here? An issue of Haitzah. Of Haitzah milshus milshus. If you wear a needle, like a needle of a tailor from the house to the street, you have chatas. And if you wear a brooch without the eye, it's just a pin, that's considered nice, and it's yatachshit, and it's okay. Now we're going to talk about muktzeh. Is a needle muktzeh? Well, yes or no. We tend to look at it as muktzeh. But really, machat, yeah, if there's a regular machat that can be used for sewing, are you allowed to move it from your Shabbos table? Yes. Because it's a klisha melachto le'isu. You're allowed to move it l'tzorch gufa mekoyma, even beyadayim. Or let's say you need to use it to treat a child's wound or something like that. That's allowed. Gufa mekoyma. Oh, Vatanya. It says in the Brisa, machat bein nekuva, bein ein nekuva, mutar l'taltal b'Shabbos. Emachat, whether the machat is nekuva, which means that there's a regular hole, good functional machat with the eye of the needle. Now, ein nekuva in the havamina. Oh, why would a machat not have an eye, not have a hole? Either because in this case we think that it broke off, right? Even though it broke off, Lamaisa, I can still use it on Shabbos because it's still good as a sharp item. Sometimes you need a sharp item to open up a wound, assuming it's allowed on Shabbos. Yeah, the law of the kuva. You know when we differentiate between a kuva and a kuva, elanin and tumah bilvad. That's very, very interesting. That raises a question, which means comes to tumah, when you have a needle that's whole, intact with the hole, W-H-O-L-E or H-O-L-E, it's whole with the hole, nice the way it's supposed to be, it's makabel tumah. Listen to this. If it broke off the top, I only have a sharp end and I don't have the top, then by tumah, we say no, it's not makabel tumah. And why? From some reason there, we don't say, hey, I can still use it to prick something. Why? On Shabbos we said, listen carefully, this is harder. Oitza has nothing to do with Tumah. But Muktzeh and Tumah, this is first of many. Many times the Gemara compares Tumah to Muktzeh. Why? Because Muktzeh, what's Muktzeh? Something that's not a Kli. As opposed to something that is a Kli that you can move. Tumah also, something that's Kli, Mekabel Tumah, and non-Kli, not Mekabel Tumah. And here we are stuck now. This is the worst part of the Sugya. Because you're telling me for Shabbos, even if it broke off, let's say before Shabbos, I can still find some creative things to do with it, to prick someone, to prick something, I don't know, that's still a kli for muktzeh. But for Tumah, it's not a kli. Why? It's not just shver onut. He said it's shver stam. Oh, here comes the big answer. We're not talking here about a needle in which the top part, the hole broke off. We're talking about a needle that wasn't yet finished. Ooh. We're talking here, how did they produce needles? They would take a long metal chut, says Rashi, like a thread of metal. They would cut it and then make a hole in it. Now this, the guy's a needle maker. He has the sharp needle, but it's just short of having the hole in the top. So regarding muktzah, it's called a kli. And regarding Tumah, it's not called a Kli. Why? I'd like to see Rashi inside, but let me tell you first, in general, the whole idea of the Kli has to be finished, complete. Gomer kol maaseh, because the Torah says, kol Kli maaseh. A Kli that, as we saw before with the leather, if I know for sure that this is not the finished product, right? And I know that tomorrow I'm going to make a hole in it, I'm not going to leave it to be a brooch for beauty or for pricking. I know that I'm going to make the hole in it. In Tumah, there are no reductions. By Tumah, any stage before the end is not Mekabel Tumah. You have to have Kli Maaseh. Meshek and Muktzeh, Muktzeh is much more of a flexible idea. It's a Rabbanan invention anyway. And therefore, by Muktzeh, we can say, no, maybe it'll be Nimlach, which means when you have in your house, same story exactly. In your house, you have a nice little metal strip like this, which you know eventually you're going to make a hole in it, right? So it's still an unfinished kli. On Shabbos, you can move it. Why? Because on Shabbos, we say maybe you'll change your mind and you leave it the way it is, stamp to prick things. By Tumah, we don't allow that. We don't have that luxury. Because by Tumah, it's a very, very key idea that only Keli Gomer Nigmar Legamre is Mekabel Tumah. But Shabbos, we don't have that. Let's see Rashi. I know we're very late, but just the Rashi. Let's see the last Rashi, at least to see one Rashi today. The Gal Mishu Goylem, Sheniktzitza Menachut V'Meretz Linokev. It's just one strip of metal and it's going to be perforated tomorrow, on Sunday, Monday. Also, but the Kozma Sholonikva Enakabel is Tumah. The Lonigma Melachto. For Tumah, as long as it's not over, it's not over. The Malacha is not done, it's not Tomeh. Well, in Tumah claim my seksiv, Shagoma kol maaseh, as I told you. There in Bamidbar it says only when the product is 100% finished, it's Mekabel Tumah. Umil, in Shabbos Sharia. Why? Why on Shabbos are you allowed to carry that non-kli? You're not allowed to carry non-kelim. Sometimes he regrets what he wanted to do. Sometimes he says, you know what? Yeah, who needs a needle? I have 10 needles. Maybe I'll leave it like that. So that maybe I will leave it like that is good enough for muktzah, but it's not good enough for Tumah V'Tara. Tumah V'Tara has a Mefurish pasuk. Pasuk says only when it's finished. Aval machat shenigmar melachto. The Rashi finishes off. A machat that is a complete machat. Kigon is spigla. A complete machat. She'ena beres linokev davidachas ilatuma. If it's a machat, either finished machat, or it's a machat which is never meant to be ninkav. Oh, let's say have a machat. Let's say what did Reb Lezer say? Let's finish off nicely. Do achasi, as I told you all along. Either the machat is meant for what? For sewing with a hole, or the machat is meant to be without a hole, but that's what it's meant to be. He decided 1,000,000%, oh, I want to leave it like that without the hole, and that's where I'm going to leave it. I know right now 1,000,000% on Friday that this item will be like that without a hole. I want to keep it as a brooch for beauty or to prick the something, whatever. Yeah, then what do we say? Surely it's Makabel Tumah, because both are finished. Each one his own version. Davido achasi. By Tumah, both mechatim are Makabel Tumah. Very good. Meshenken and Shabbos, when something is maybe yes, maybe no, yeah, and my general idea is yes to make a hole in it, then it's not Makabel Tumah. Maybe I'll regret, not good enough. You don't say maybe you regret in Tumah. On Shabbos you do. Because by Tumah we know only when it's for sure in its last stage, only then it's Makabel Tumah. Very good. Okay, shkoyach. Next Mishnah tomorrow. Be'ezus Hashem. I hope I have time tomorrow. Wish me atzlocha. And tomorrow we have another day. More about tomorrow. No Tumah V'Tara. Tomorrow is more about the animals, how they go out, about the nature of the donkeys. Interesting stuff. Atzlocha. Thank you to everybody on Zoom and everybody here in the room and everybody who watches it on YouTube. Thank you, Atzlocha, Vrocha. Have a good night. Thank you. We should always be V'Tara, not